I hope you can hear me.
Loud and clear.
Yeah,
And
sounds good.
then let's put. So this is a intro slide deck. So thank you all for coming. We are Serverless Toronto user group. We did start as a regular backend developers like almost 4 years ago, but over the years we started defining serverless as new agile and the mindset, and we are trying to bridge the gap between IT and the business needs, because way too much time we spend in the garage pimping a car instead of helping business kind of go forward. And we do that in multiple ways through the serverless meetups like this one, where we talk about new serverless services, managed services, and databases like tonight. Snowflake, we bring business-focused topics, and all these events are recorded and published on a YouTube channel for you kind of to catch up if interested. We also offer second opinions on application and data architectures to the businesses for free. And then if that's not enough, a number of us are consultants, so you can reach out to us and we'll hook you up with a good consultant, regardless of the cloud you plan to use. And I hope this is not the last time with us. We traditionally have like a meetups for after reInvent. So in January, James Beswick, senior developer advocate, will be coming again to talk to us. But because these online virtual meetups look alike after COVID started, James is preparing something special for you. And then the meetup in February is going to be with Leah. She's a developer advocate with Google for BigQuery and Looker, and she's going to do a unique presentation of related to retail analytics using both of these products. And then after that, we need to plan more events for 2022. So I hope to see some of you present here again. And last but not the least, a sponsor for years has been Money Publications. At the end of the meetup, we're going to do a Wheel of Names raffle, and one of you is going to receive any of their products. I noticed today that they have 50% off anything, couple more hours. So I will share that link for those who don't win in the raffle tonight. And then be honored to have Felipe with us tonight as a feature presenter. So thank you, Felipe. Please take it away.
Hello, everyone. Super happy, super excited to see you. Thank you, Daniel, for inviting me. I see the list of people that you have invited so far are awesome. And the ones you are just announced are incredible too. So it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to have some friends also connecting. John is our Snowflake regional sales manager for the region. Hi, John. So anyone wants to follow up with him for the Toronto region, that's awesome. I'm also super excited to see Lynn, who just announced that she's writing the first LinkedIn class for Snowflake. Lynn is an expert in so many different platforms that having her write about Snowflake is a huge honor. And I'm Felipe Hoffa. And today is called An Evening with Me. So I'll be very happy to um, share with you anything that I know. I have a couple presentations prepared. I have more materials than time we have. So I'm happy to go slower in anything that you are more interested in, faster on things that we should go fast. Um, a lot of people might watch this presentation later when it's recorded on YouTube, as Daniel always publishes them. But everyone that's here, you have the power to drive this conversation. Now, as I was talking with Daniel, sometimes just to stay on focus, we have time for live questions at the end of the presentation. We have a lot of time, but also if while I'm presenting you want to drive something slower or faster, dive deeper into anything, if you don't feel like interrupting and taking the microphone, I think a great way of doing it is use the chat. I will be monitoring all the chat messages, and I, w- I will be able to dive deeper into any topic that makes sense. Um, just a quick question as I'm getting to know the attendees today. How many know Snowflake? If you want, if you don't want to yell, you can always type "I know Snowflake," or you can type "I'm about to learn about Snowflake." Also, for a long time, I worked at Google, where I talked a lot about BigQuery. So if we have people that know BigQuery here, also let me know so I can also compare both products for you. Yes. Link knows Snowflake. Yes. Uh, Atul is about to learn. John knows a lot about Snowflake. We have some BigQuery friends. If you have questions at the end of how this is different from BigQuery, specific questions, I'm very happy to uh, talk about both. I do work for Snowflake, so of course I'm biased, but I happen to be an expert in both products. So let me show you first my screen, the slides that I have prepared. I will share a window. Let me, uh, yes, I have chosen the right window, I think. And just to show you what I have here prepared. One, this is my Snowflake environment. I'm ready to jump into demo mode at any minute. Um, this is Reddit r Snowflake, where I collect all of the Snowflake stories that I know of. So if you want to keep updated on anything that is happening on the Snowflake world, come to our subreddit. Also, I have many blog posts that I've written around. I have a presentation that I took from our uh, this is one of the typical presentations that we give on a technical deep dive, but I added some of my own notes, my own blog posts, my own demos to it. So let's see how long we can go over it. And because Daniel wanted to call this an evening with Felipe Hoffa, I also want to tell you a little bit about me. And let me get started with this. Is this presenting? Yes. Just a little bit about me before we dive into Snowflake. This is my Twitter account. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm a data cloud advocate for Snowflake. If you hear an accent, that's because I speak Spanish. I live in San Francisco now, and I used to work with BigQuery. And Daniel was not one of the things he noted on the invitation to this presentation was my list of learnings after 10 years in the United States. I posted this back in June. It was 2011 where I had to find my career path. Things were not working out in Chile, but I living it. I ended up at Google in San Francisco. When at Google, I discovered that I didn't need to be a manager to be successful, to have a career path. That was wonderful. Um, I started at Google as a software engineer, but then I became a developer advocate for BigQuery, thanks to Michael Manucheri, that chose me to join this path. That was incredible for me. Something super important, a tip for everyone is to know your strengths. Your strengths are different than mine, and your strengths, uh, you can use them to find your own path. That was one of the biggest steps for me. And on one hand, you have your strengths. On the other hand, you have what you like doing. For me, it happens to be traveling, storytelling, and analyzing data. So it would be perfect for me to be right now in Toronto telling you stories and analyzing data with you. We're almost there. Hopefully, we will go back to normal. But for now, I'm glad to make friends online. Another tip that I have is always choose a manager that values your strengths. Even if you don't have a choice, if someone tells you this is your next manager, uh, as soon as you meet them, tell them what are your strengths and drive your career in that way. And yes, after almost 10 years at Google, I had 13 different managers. And in August last year, I decided to join Snowflake. It's been wonderful. I use everything that I had learned at Google about manager, about my strengths, about what I like doing to choose this job, and not only to choose it, to make it my own. And now, more than a year and a half later, I mean, like 15 months later, I'm super happy that I chose Snowflake. So before I finish my list, let me tell you a little bit about Snowflake. I posted this in September 2020 after joining Snowflake. Is on the left, you can see my ranking, the ranking of all time of BigQuery experts on Stack Overflow. I made it to number 2, and starting at Snowflake uh, brought me to the bottom of that ranking. I really love helping people. I really use Stack Overflow to help others and also to show off that I'm an expert. For me, it was a big, big jump to come to this world. And uh, I can tell you now that I will save that for later, but let's learn a little bit about Snowflake now, especially for those that don't know it. I have this great presentation, a technical deep dive. I have added some of my notes, and I'm happy to take a look at any of your comments in that route. So we want a platform where we have our data, analyze it, share with others, understand what we have, predict the future, and the basic requirements. We need it to be fast, we need it to just work, and we need it to be connected to what matters. Uh, Other teams, different workloads, different clouds, different data. It needs to be seamless, it needs to be secure. This should be your basic requirements. I love the part where we call it for we want to just work. And this is the Snowflake platform. A lot of people call Snowflake a data warehouse, and that's because that's how our story started. Uh, the founders of Snowflake decided to leave Oracle and to create a warehouse based on the new on the new elements that we had available. Uh, Infinite storage on the cloud, infinite compute on the cloud. And they said, we need to start something new. We need to start something from zero. Let's use this power. And that's how Snowflake was born and became, as we may call it, the first um, warehouse built on the cloud, for the cloud, with no previous history. It was just built from the ground up to use these basic elements. And we started as a warehouse, but now it's much, much more. Data warehouse is one of the workloads that you can run on Snowflake, but we want to call out that you can do data engineering. You can use Snowflake as a data lake, as a data warehouse. You can use it for data science. You can use it for data applications, and you can use it for data sharing within your organization and between other organizations, and even better, between clouds, because different organizations, different teams, different companies choose different clouds. We are building the data cloud over it. Being a data cloud is not only about uh, the product and the features, but the ecosystem, how it's a network effect that grows as you're able to bring more people in and not stop them just because they are happen to be in a different cloud, etc. On the left side, we can see the data sources, wherever you can want to bring your data in. We know you might have many silos of data. Snowflake can welcome everything and stop these data silos. And on the right, we have data consumers, which could be data monetization, if you want to share data with more people, operational reporting, ad hoc analysis. I love that. I love real-time analytics. And the basics of Snowflake, as you can see here in the center, is an elastic performance engine. It really can get as fast as you need, as it can scale up and down. Intelligent infrastructure and SnowGrid, our ability to connect everything. So just to show you a little bit about the elastic performance engine, uh, Snowflake makes it really easy to have a give different power to different workloads. You might have one team of data analysts that you don't want to you want to give them a limited amount of power, while you might want to have very fast loads for certain operations, and you want to isolate these resources and make your processes predictable because it's easy to isolate one workload from the others. Snowflake makes that really, really easy. Performance and concurrency works really, really well on Snowflake. We can test it. And The basic of Snowflake is its ability to do everything with SQL, but it's really amazing how we are adding these possibilities to work with Java, with Scala, with Python, and more. We are going to have some demos of it later. And yeah, these are the workloads that I was calling out previously: data engineering, data lakes, data warehouse, data science, applications, and data sharing. And this is a chart that we have for loading records. And here, what I'm showing you at the bottom is how much time it would take. So you can see two lines here. Both are blue, light blue, dark blue. The light blue shows how the cost of loading a billion records on Snowflake increases depending if we choose a small warehouse or a super large warehouse. I will explain to you in a second what that means. But as we are increasing the cost of loading that data, we are also decreasing the time. And then you can choose where your sweet spot is. And there really is a sweet spot where you can decrease the time that it takes to load data into Snowflake without increasing the price, just because you have the ability to call more parallelism when doing these loads. And I really need to explain to you a little bit about this ability of Snowflake to divide, to have this separation of compute where you can decide what warehouse to use. Basically, on Snowflake, as I was telling you, the basic elements of Snowflake are underneath it. Well, if you were running Snowflake on Amazon, the basic elements are access to EC. Snowflake is using EC2 VMs and it's using S3 storage. So when you're using Snowflake, you can tell Snowflake use a extra small warehouse or use a super extra large warehouse, and this represents EC2 VMs or wherever VMs the different clouds are using. And each of these warehouses uses different amount of credits per hour. And here I'm just showing you how you could choose between the extra small warehouse to the 4XL warehouse with different amount of credits. For this workload, the sweet spot would be using the extra large to get a lot more faster without increasing the price, because the Snowflake cost is per second. And if you're not using the warehouse, it auto suspends, so you don't need to be turning them on and off. You just get to do whatever you want to do. And we have here a couple charts showing how you would scale this for different teams and how could you could manage costs to keep it everything under budget if that's what you want, or make things really, really fast if you want to solve this by adding more power. And of course, I can go. I will skip this for now. We can go deeper into that model if you want. Also, we keep making Snowflake faster, and our users have ways to make it faster, like with automatic clustering, materialized views, and the search optimization service. Auto clustering means that we can tell Snowflake to order our tables physically under the wraps, and it will all happen automatically. But this is really useful for certain kinds of data. For other kinds of data, you don't need clustering. Things are going to be fast and partitioned, run into organized into micro partitions naturally as you add data. Materialized views allows you to tell Snowflake how data should be pre-aggregated, so for others to read it without having them run huge queries. Again, I want to jump about this example. And search optimization service is a way when you can tell Snowflake to optimize certain tables for point lookups and make these queries really, really fast. And of course, we have a lot of case studies to talk about this. Now, This is a feature that we're calling out in this presentation that I love. It's called Match Recognize. Match Recognize gives us the ability to look at time series of data and ask questions about what's happening in this time series. And I wrote a blog post for it, so let me show you a little bit about it. Funnel analytics with SQL, Match Recognize on Snowflake. This is a SQL clause that makes analyzing time series very quickly. And I have my blog post, but just to show you a little example here. Basically, I'm looking at Google Analytics data in Snowflake. Of course, I have, when you're looking at Google Analytics, you have a user going through different steps. And I was wondering, hey, Snowflake, tell me every path that started from certain referrer um, that tried to pay for what they bought and they were able to pay for it. That query is really, really hard to write in SQL, in traditional SQL, but with the match recognize function, you can say exactly that. Here you can see that I have partitioned it by visit. So each visit will have their timeline. I want to order by hit, good. And I want to count the number of steps. I want to count the number of times they try to pay for their purchase. And I'm going to ask, hey, I want to ask something that started with this referrer that then tried to pay it or anything else, and at the end it was completed. You can see that this is a pattern where in below here I defined this is what it means coming from a referrer. This is what it means that the path was completed, the order was completed, and this is what it means that they tried to pay. And with one query, I can see that there were 21 visits that from this referrer that ended in payment, that it took 35 steps in average. They tried to pay 1.7 times, so sometimes they were able to pay on the first try. But there was one session that did this for nine times before they were able to pay. But again, what's the beautiful part about it is that I was able to write in one simple query how to analyze this path. Another feature that I love about Snowflake is our geospatial support. And here we have the ability um, not only to analyze geospatial data, we also work with partners like Carto that are adding extra capabilities. And I wrote this blog post using the Carto's shared functions where in this example, again, I can give you a demo if you want right now, but where I told these libraries, hey, one, create a series of random points within a geography. These are 1,000 random points among Italy, which should be a really hard thing to do. Like, yes, getting random points is easy. Getting 1,000 random points around the geography, that's a very geography intense request, but it was took me one query to get it. And then I was able to cluster these 1,000 random points in 5 different regions separating Italy. Again, happy to dive deeper into this demo if you would like to, but I have so much more to do. Also, we have Snowsite. Snowsite is our web UI. We used to have our classic web UI. Now we've been developing Snowsite to replace the old one. Again, I love it. It allows me not only to run my queries, keep them all together, but also to visualize all the results, build dashboards, and share this with other people. So yes, I will quickly read what Snowsite brings. Faster repulsive query, smart autocomplete, less SQL to needed to write, interactive results, automatic statistics, beautiful charts, modern dashboards, dynamic data filters, and share your work with private links with other people. I will give you a demo in a second. Another great feature of Snowflake is, as I was telling you earlier, the ability to work with different languages. SQL is the native language of Snowflake. You can do most of your operation for Snowflake with SQL. That means it's really easy to automate things without the need to call any API. But now we are adding the ability for people to write, forget about SQL, and for example, write data frames with Scala, with Python, and they can work in their native data frame world, and everything is translated into the internal Snowflake engine using the power of Snowflake without the need to copy data outside. And even better, on the server side, we have the ability to write UDFs in Java, in Python, in JavaScript, or even having external functions. Again, I have a demo of it, but quickly, some features of Snowflake. Why Snowpark? Why do we want to write this? One is with streamlined architecture. People can work on different languages, but everything is supported by a single platform. The pipelines become scalable and optimized. Forget about the maintenance with Snowflake. And the act with confidence is one of the most important parts. The enterprise-grade governance, controls, and security across your workflows. You are not moving data you're not moving data around. You know exactly who is accessing what data. And in Snowflake, you can have strong permissions of who can access what. Everything's managed with role-based security. You can have row level security, column level security, and data masking. That is an incredible feature. This is a quick look at how data frames work. People write with data frames Java, Scala, Python, and it gets translated into automatically into SQL, or not even SQL, the internal language that Snowflake uses. And this is the demo that I was giving all week last week at Amazon using Java functions inside Snowflake. And here is where I want to show you this live demo. But before we go into the live demo, just to show you the basic concepts here, I can create a function. This function adds 2 columns. And I'm writing SQL here. I'm telling it that I'm going to create this UDF in Java. And inside my SQL code, when I'm defining this function, here I wrote Java code. This Java code that adds 2 numbers is compiled by Snowflake. So you don't need to go outside, compile anything. Java code is compiled by Snowflake, and now this function is available to everyone on your account. A more complex example would be just bringing a library out of GitHub. I found this library that allows you to determine in what language something was written in, written language. And I just took it. I built a huge jar. I put this jar into Snowflake, and then I can create again another UDF in Java, which is the text language. It imports any jar that I want to give it. And when I'm writing my Java code, I can import these libraries. I can write my code and get in what languages things are working. And just because I've done too many slides, let me do this live just to show you a little bit of Snowsite and how I write queries inside Snowsite. This is the web UI. You can see here that some basic elements at first. I'm going to use the role sysadmin. This is my own Snowflake account. But when you have enterprise requirements, it's great that you can define different roles for different teams, and you can give different roles to the same person. So one person might have only one role available in their Snowflake as for their Snowflake user. But if I'm the administrator of Snowflake, I can have multiple roles, and I can choose which role I use. And that means if I have the ability to choose a different role, is that I can test exactly how Snowflake works for someone in that role. And that allows me to test security and if all the permissions that I have set up are working great. In this case, I created warehouses. a large one, a small one, and I'm deciding which that I'm going to use the small one. I have my own database. In this database, I have schemas, and I'm going to skip this example. This is me loading Hacker News, an archive of Hacker News into Snowflake just to show you how semi-structured data support. I'm going to skip it by now, but I'm going to jump to my Java UDF. This, for example, my code to write a Java UDF. The first thing that I showed you, you see, this is Java code. It was compiled. The function just works. And of course, that was very easy. But now this is the jar that I downloaded from GitHub. I compiled it to with Gradle to a jar with dependencies just to make it easy to manage all the dependencies. It created a 148 megabytes jar. That's okay. I can create this function, detect language, that will import this huge jar. It will write my basic Java code, which is this detector, look at the language of anything I send it, and give me the reply, return that. And I can run a SQL query that goes over 4 different phrases, and of course, it detects them correctly. Languages are random. Hola, mi amigo. Hello, Freunde. Je ne parle pas. This was detected. Now, that's a very, very small example, so I decided to go big with this blog post, the most popular languages on Reddit, after analyzing 1 million comments. I took 1 million comments from Reddit. I used this Java UDF, but I was also trying it as a UDTF, which is a table function that I could also write. And in less than 2 minutes, I was able to go over this million Reddit comments to find out what the top languages on Reddit are. Anyone knows what the top, without looking at the answer, anyone knows what the top languages on Reddit are? I don't know if anyone wants to type it.
Python?
Oh, but spoken languages, like Turkish, for example. Lynn thinks that it's German. Why would it be German? Do we have a lot of Deutsche speakers in the world? English, of course, is the top one, but the second one, I think Lynn knew the right answer. Spanish. Yes, Alphonse. Munoz. Of course, I thought it was going to be Spanish, but no. The top language on Reddit is Deutsche. Lynn was right, but I think Lynn knew the answer, followed by Spanish, followed by Portuguese, followed by French. And for me, it was beautiful to just create this visualization using, in this case, I'm using Tableau. It's really easy to connect Tableau with Snowflake. And just because we're in Toronto, this is an interesting observation that the top subreddit speaking French is France, of course, but the second one is Quebec, which also speaks a lot of French, but they have a huge presence. Similar for Spanish, the top 2 countries speaking Spanish in Reddit are Argentina and Chile. Chile, which is not the biggest country, doesn't have the largest population, but it's interesting to have my fellow Chileans spending a lot of time on Reddit. And we can keep going deeper. Like in Germany, the top subreddits are Deutschland, Austria, and finance. While in Portuguese, I don't know, I could keep going on, but take a look at the blog post. I just wanted to show you that it's really easy, really fun to do this kind of analysis using Java UDFs. And our next step, I don't have a demo yet, but we are in private preview right now, is doing the same with Python. And that is wonderful. And here the story is we did Java first because it's really, really easy to package Java. You just bring a jar and everything is packaged inside this jar. Python makes things harder with the library dependencies, versions. Anyone that uses Python, I'm sure they have not noticed how hard it is to manage dependencies. So to fix this with Python and make this experience really seamless for any Python plus Snowflake user, we partnered with Anaconda. And Anaconda, this company, they are wonderful, and they are bringing all their knowledge to create an environment for anyone to have all their typical data science libraries available within Snowflake. And yes, I see here that Rayudu mentions that Tableau plus Snowflake is their day life. I hope they are having a great experience. Side note, Tableau wrote a really nice blog post of why Tableau, the company, chose Snowflake for their own data backend. They, again, they looked at all the available alternatives, and you can see in their blog post why Tableau itself, the company, chose Snowflake. And even though you can do a lot with Java and Python and JavaScript inside the Snowflake, sometimes there are things that you might not have in those languages or might not be easy to package. And this is our ability to have external functions. From within SQL, we can create functions that go outside to get any results. And I have also here my live example of having forecast in Snowflake, machine learning, with Facebook Prophet. So in this case, for Facebook Prophet, I built a Docker image with Facebook ready to run Facebook Prophet inside Google Cloud Run. I connected both pieces. I created a function in Snowflake that calls my Cloud Run VM. And I want to show you a live demo of it running. Again, if we had more time, we could go step by step, but just to give you a quick example, let me look at the weather in Toronto. This is public data, NOAA GSOD for Toronto City Center. And you can see here how beautiful the weather looks. And what was the last weather point? Yesterday you had 36 Fahrenheit degrees in Toronto. That means it's really, really cold there right now. Also, what's beautiful to see here is that I got my results, yes, but I can also, within the Snowflake Web UI, I can have a chart and I can visualize what my results are, and I can add these charts to dashboards to share these results with others. But let's use this data to predict what's going to happen next. And this is my SQL function prophetize. That it's an external function. And for this specific function, I'm sending them an array of the previous weather, an array of what dates it represents, and another SQL ability that Snowflake has that I love is the ability to refer to the results of the previous query. And Snowflake can do this because I was talking about the warehouse where I chose the warehouse where I'm running things. That's basically a VM. And because I'm talking to a VM, I'm currently connected to it, it can handle a session. Only in a session, I can say, hey, there is a previous query. If I didn't have a session, a previous query could be anything. But because here I'm running within a session, I have the ability to have transactions. I have the ability to refer to previous queries. I have an ability to work in an interactive world. And this other where is looking at, yes, take the results of the previous query, but instead of giving Facebook Prophet all the weather that we know until yesterday, is look only until September 1st. And this will allow me to compare the results that Facebook Prophet can compare from until September. I will tell Prophet what the results were until September. and then I will be able to compare it with the last 2 months. So let me run this. Again, this is a SQL query. It's very transparent how this data is being packaged, sent from my Snowflake account is on Amazon, so it's being sent to a Google Cloud Run function. It's all working in the backend, and of course, here are my results, and I can parse them also in real time, looking at the results of the previous query. These are my query. So this is my previous query where I got these results, and the previous query is the one where I got all the data. So I'm combining both to visualize them together. And let's look at these results. Beautiful. Let me run a chart. Here I will add the column. Let me see the forecast. Here you can see my beautiful forecast for the weather in Toronto. The forecast, the yellow line, matches pretty well the actual weather, which is the blue line. And of course, Facebook Prophet gives me a minimum and it gives me a maximum. That's the band, my prediction. Where do I have to click to? Yes, that's my prediction, and it's telling us that tomorrow is going to be even colder. But anyways, it's all cyclical. This is a very cool, easy thing to predict. But you can use these numbers, and you can use Prophet for other things like, let's get the price of Bitcoin, and let's predict the price of Bitcoin for the next few months. Same process. It's super easy to run forecasts. It's harder to get them right, but anyways, just for fun, I'm looking at the price of Bitcoin, and you can see here that also I'm using public data. This is free public data on Snowflake. It's bringing it in out from Noma. They have not only the Bitcoin price, they have a lot of. They're tracking an incredible amount of public data into time series. They're sharing them in Snowflake. You have access to it. You can use it as you want. And of course, here are my predictions for Bitcoin. And you can see that according to Facebook Prophet, Bitcoin is going to reach $100,000 in December 2022. But before you believe any of my predictions, you should know that time series depend a lot on what you're doing. And of course, predicting the weather is way easier to predict in Bitcoin. Just to run a different example, I'm going to look at the Bitcoin price starting on August 1st instead of starting on 2017. And I'm going to get another prediction from Prophet looking at this shorter time series. And now, looking at the Bitcoin price starting on August this year, if I had to forecast it with Prophet, Prophet would tell me that it will go to zero on June 2022. So be careful with the time series predictions. They depend on a lot of factors and how you model stuff. Still, it's really fun to play with them. How did I set up the Facebook Prophet in Snowflake? Let me show you really quickly in my blog post how I did it. First, of course, I built the Prophet container. Here is my Docker file. That was all easy. And this is the main function that's answering the request for a forecast. I submitted it to Google Cloud. Now, this is how I build it to make this fast. And then I enabled the Google API gateway to read requests, to send requests to the run container. And this is the setup on the Snowflake side. Hey, Snowflake, I'll be the account admin. The account admin has the permission to set up these connections, or you can give a different role access to do this kind of operations. And I'm going to create an integration. The integration is the one that uses the Google API gateway. And these are the values that I need to make this connection secure. Once I have created the Prophet test integration, I can just create my external function where I'm telling it use the API integration Prophet test, use this URL to get there, and anyone with the role sysadmin can run this function. So setting it up is really easy. The other part that I had to do on the Google side is when I ask it this to describe an integration, it gives me the Google service account that I can tell the API gateway, hey, API gateway, only reply to a request with using this Google service account. So the whole pipeline setup is secure, and it's really easy to set it up. Once you have the integration, tell Google that it can only answer to requests from this service account that was automatically created by Snowflake, even if you're using Snowflake on Amazon, and then create different functions. And of course, that's when I can start telling, hey, prophetize for this list of numbers, and I get the results. And this is how things are secured. Hopefully, that answered the question from Rayudu. Let me go back to my presentation. Thank you for the question, and thank you for letting me go deeper into that. The SQL API is a serverless way to have a REST API with Snowflake. As I was calling it earlier, we have the ability to have sessions. When you're using the JDBC driver that has the JDBC driver has to keep that connection up so we can have that logical session. When with the SQL API, it's more of a REST API, and instead of having a session, you can just send queries to Snowflake. That is new. Intelligence infrastructure. I have a lot more slides, so I will start going faster now. Our infrastructure does its own maintenance and tuning, multi-cluster compute resources, networking and encryption, administration, data management, centralized storage. This is taken care by Snowflake for you. Forget about upgrading versions of Snowflake. Forget about planned downtime. Things will just run. Caching in Snowflake is really smart too. We have the database storage, as you can see here. We have the virtual warehouses that take this data out of S3 or Google Cloud Storage or Azure, whatever. And these virtual warehouses are able to catch this data in their local SSD, making queries way, way faster as you're going over the same data because no network connection is needed. And having the data locally is awesome. Also, because you have these virtual warehouses and you can determine which workloads are able to use which, you are isolating the resources. And of course, cloud services is the smart layer of Snowflake that has all the metadata to do the query planning. Micropartitions are awesome. I'm not going to dive deep into them. Zero copy cloning is incredible because if you have a table and you want to run some experiments on your table, you can ask Snowflake to clone it. Let's say you are in a developer environment, you can clone the production table, run all your experiments on it, and the cloning does not. Brian is trying to say something, or maybe. Yes, Brian's microphone is working weirdly. But yes, a clone does a zero copy clone. It doesn't modify the underlying data or duplicate the storage needs until you start making changes to it. And this is wonderful to work with prod, with dev, and to stage your changes where you can run all of the transformations in a staging table and then move them to prod seamlessly. Time travel allows you to go back in time. This is an incredible feature for anyone that has dropped tables or done things that they shouldn't do to production. The security in Snowflake is industry standard, shared responsibility, role-based. Role-based, you can really test if what you have set up is working well or not. End-to-end encryption, fully encrypted storage, strong authentication, full auditing, role-based access control, and recovery options. Super secure, the keys, as you would know, and transparency and getting all of the certifications that you might need. Data protection, of course, supported across many regions around the world and in different clouds. This is wonderful. We are building a data mesh. Let me skip this one and to come to semi-structured data. The ability of Snowflake to work with JSON data, for example, seamlessly. Uh, it can parse JSON data on load, and it optimizes the tables as such to run queries because it has all been parsed transparently, and it has a easy to use way to navigate these objects. Let me come back to my demo here just to show you quickly what I did with Hacker News. In this case, Hacker News, I exported it from BigQuery as Parquet files. This is, again, GCP stage is, I have set up my Snowflake. I have set up my Snowflake account to look at Google Cloud Storage. My account is in Amazon. It can look at Google Cloud Storage without problems. And I'm going to, here is how I copy these files that are in Google Cloud Storage, these files with this pattern, and these files happen to be Parquet. And you can see that the table that I'm copying this to doesn't have a schema. I'm just saying this table has one column, which is a variant. A variant is this type in Snowflake that accepts semi-structured data. Also interesting to see in Snowflake, Snowflake stores the data compressed. So when you are paying for storage in Snowflake, you're paying for compressed data. Usually I see a 4 to 5 times compression from the original data to Snowflake. Sometimes it's 10 times. In this case, it was the factor was 2, but it's compressed, and that's wonderful. And here you can see where I'm going through my table Hacker News, and I'm going to go search for a specific story, a story with this ID. And you can see that I have an object, my variant object, which has all these columns inside. It's not columns. These are the properties of this object. It's not a column anymore. But I can see, look at each object where I'm navigating inside the object here with the column indicator. I'm looking for the story 259, and here it found it. If I want to look for every story that has this ID as a parent, go select star and look for that parent. And that's cool. And I found 15 comments that that story has as a parent. Now, if I go to Hacker News to look at that story written 10 months ago by Thomas that did some Snowflake Hacker News analysis with Snowflake, you can see that this story has way more than 15 comments because these comments are nested. The parent of this comment is this one, and I cannot navigate that structure here. I have to ask, hey, Snowflake, since I have here all the comments, top level comments for this story, now what comments have these comments as parents? And navigating that kind of recursive data is hard with SQL, but not in Snowflake because we have the connect by SQL clause. And I wanted to show you this query where I'm getting all the stories. I want to get the author, the timestamp, and I want to start with this ID. And then with connect by, I can look at where the parent is equal to the prior record in this recursive way. And of course, I'm looking for the comments, order by ID, and I'm going to show you how this runs really quickly, really fast. And I'm going through recursive data, and I'm getting all the comments from this story. Let's see how long it takes. Again, this is recursive, so it's running every time. And here we have it. Let me hide the statistics. Well, part of Snow site, you can see that not only I got my results, I got a summary. Like 8 of these comments are from Thomas, 2 from Litro, so I having all these automated stats. If I had them, I can find each comment. I'm getting the text of each comment, and I'm getting the path that was traveled to get to it from comment to parent, and it just works. And I find that beautiful, and it saves me a lot of SQL writing, because if I didn't have recursive abilities, I would have to run this query 10 times or write super complicated SQL. That was my semi-structured example that I'm about to publish that blog post. I wanted to have it before the meetup, but I'm going to publish it after. And I have a lot more slides planned. I think this might be a good time to take a pause and listen to your comments, questions, and I can keep diving in, but let me pause for a second and listen to what you think so far.
You're a really good storyteller, which is not common for geeks. So you can keep going as far as I'm concerned, unless there are no questions.
Thank you. Anyone else wants to say anything, or I can just keep going through the slides?
Yeah,
Okay.
Philip, I think it's really going
Yes.
good. The story as as you are going, so it's interesting. Keep going. I think we can keep all the questions to the end. Usually, that's the way our moderator does. So,
Excellent. I will go for a fast run then. I just needed to drink some water and listen to. At least I got positive feedback. Thank you very much. Okay, semi-structured data. This is beautiful. This is also happening right now. The ability to have unstructured data in Snowflake. This means load your JPEGs, load your PDFs, load your binaries, load your weirdly formatted ASCII files. Snowflake, you can store unstructured data in Snowflake, and Snowflake gives you the ability to work with these files in a governed way, who has permission to what, and also to understand them. Like, for example, use Java to parse a PDF to find the text inside, or wherever, I don't know, weather picture, satellite images, and you have ways of analyzing it. Uh, Snowflake is growing into the unstructured world. And as we tell you, with Snowpark, you have these abilities: role-based access control, secure sharing, directory tables, scoped access. I'm going to have more examples about this uh, soon in some blog posts. Snowpipe is wonderful. With Snowpipe, I can tell Snowflake, hey, Snowflake, let's look at this Google Cloud Storage bucket, or at this Amazon S3 bucket. Every time you see a new file, load it into Snowflake. You can have almost real-time pipelines with that. Super real-time, that will wait until a future presentation. What we have announced in that is that Tyler Akidao wrote a great blog post last year after moving from Google to Snowflake, and Tyler wrote about how we're hiring to redefine real-time. But for now, Snowpipe is wonderful. Schema detection, that's also getting better in Snowflake. Serverless task, where you don't need to tell Snowflake anymore what size of a warehouse you want to use. You can let the Snowflake decide that. SnowGrid is our ability to run Snowflake and do to manage accounts across clouds, across regions, and letting Snowflake manage that. Global business continuity, share data with no ETL or silos, cross-cloud governance controls. That is wonderful. Tap into the extended ecosystem of Snowflake. And with business continuity, we mean that we are trying to make it as seamless as possible, that if you have a connection to one Snowflake region and that fails, uh, there's a disaster, things will keep working on a different region. Uh, Different types of errors. Again, I'm doing a fast. I don't want to stop everywhere because otherwise I will run out of time. But database replication works. Database failovers works really well. The client redirect means you have your client application, and when you have one region fail, it automatically connects to a different region, to a different cloud, and it supports, as you can see here, all our clients, NoSQL, Python, JDBC, or DBC. The redirect is happening in a Snowflake layer. Security and governance. Secure views are awesome. Secure UDLs are awesome too. Secure joins are very interesting. Uh, Here there is a story where Disney chose Snowflake to run their, how do we call, I just lost the name, but the private room where they are not sharing customer data with
The
other
data clean
companies.
room. Data clean room.
Data clean room. Thank you, John. Thank
You're
you, John.
welcome.
Clean
You're
room.
welcome.
Yes. Yes. So yes, clean rooms are really important, and Disney has chosen Snowflake to build their clean room with their partners on Snowflake. Governance capabilities, we're talking about rogues access, dynamic data masking, tokenization, conditional masking, anonymization. Some things have a star there. The star means are in private preview, but things are getting out. Um, So dynamic data masking, that is wonderful because I don't need to create new views. I don't need to copy tables. I can set up rules. If someone with this role is looking at this data, then show them this instead, without making a copy, without making a view. External tokenization, row access policies. Again, I have a blog post that I have not published on how awesome Snowflake row access policy is so much better than some alternatives, but I'll talk about that later. Object tagging, that's wonderful too to manage your resources in enterprise. Automatic data classification, that's on private preview. Um, Let me skip that. Access history for reads, for writes, the object dependencies, again, private preview for some of these things. The governance works across all these different workloads. Share data securely. Let me jump. Direct share between Snowflake accounts. That makes it wonderful. You can even give reader accounts to, if you want to work with partners that don't have Snowflake, you can give them a reader account to your Snowflake account, and they should get a Snowflake eventually. But still, if they don't have a Snowflake and you want to run things between companies, you can give them a reader account. The data exchange to exchange data with an enterprise. Demos, I've done a lot of demos, but the Citibank one is really cool. I'm going to skip it for now. Of course, a lot of companies are telling the world how much they love Snowflake and how Snowflake has improved their processes. Um, Customers rate Snowflake as a leader. We have thousands of customers. We love all of them. Um, this chart shows the data cloud, how people are sharing data between companies. This was April 2021. This cloud is way bigger now. Of course, a lot of people started looking at COVID-19 data that lives in Snowflake and sharing the ecosystem grows. Wonderful partners. We have our services. If you decide to bring Snowflake into your company, into your enterprise, we have our services organization too. And I'm going to stop here. I have even more slides to go deeper into. But if you want to keep connected with me, I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn. I put all the stories on Reddit. And of course, we have a lot of Snowflake on accounts. I'm just sharing my favorites here, but we have our Snowflake page. We have the Snowflake quick starts. If anyone wants to go and just have some fun with the Snowflake right now, go to Snowflake quick starts, and here you can find a lot of different examples to have fun with and go step over step playing with these different use cases, integrations. If you have Terraform, oh, how would you Terraform Snowflake? Here you have an easy to follow step by step. And with that, that was a power run. And I have even more slides and examples. Let's start the conversation.
You're amazing. You didn't have to stop at 1 hour sharp. Like you have all evening for yourself. Very good timing. Thank you so much. So,
thank you for listening.
oh my God.
Yes.
So, what are the questions in the chat? Let's see how you want to.
Yes. Oh,
guys, stage is yours. You can do anything. Like.
Yes. Oh, thank you, John, for sharing the quick start.
You're welcome. Great job, Felipe.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I wanted to touch on as well that I find when I go around speaking to customers is our data marketplace. In the data marketplace, we have hundreds of different providers. That takes the friction. Think about a no ETL environment, right? Where we have to we have to have an ETL tool to pull from these source systems or our partner networks, for example. And through the data marketplace, we can have data shared through to us in order to make that like a frictionless type of environment. So not only are you having your first party data, your core data from your core systems in there, but you can also have third party data come in as well without having to FTP it or upload into a bucket and then copy into, and it's live in real time. So the data marketplace with the data market providers that we have makes this like a frictionless environment to really do data sharing and collaboration of your data. So it's another point that I wanted to just bring up.
Yes, and just to show you quickly the marketplace live, if I'm sharing the tab here, this is snowflake.com/data marketplace. You can see how much business development effort we put on the marketplace. It's not only about having this feature where you can share data and you can list data. It's also that Snowflake is working really hard to bring a lot of partners in so many categories. Some data sets are free, some data sets are premium. Any category you would like to go in, you will find a lot of partners, and people just love sharing on Snowflake. Sharing, monetizing data, and also bringing it in to enrich your processes. Thank you for that call out, John.
So Felipe, related to that question, like I'm only familiar with public data sets of BigQuery. So is that similar with the ability for me to sell as a company, not just to give for free? What is the parallel?
Exactly. So historically, Snowflake has allowed partners to set up these listings. Like, oh, I have this data that I'm going to sell, license, etc. And Snowflake gives them the ability to list it and to have Snowflake users request access to it. We have let them decide how they want to agree for a license with their users for a long time, but we keep adding features on how to make these data, these premium data sets, self-service for anyone that wants to access it. So the data owners can decide to monetize it in different ways and have, for example, demo data, have their users pay per usage or of usage of the, like, for example, 1,000 queries a month, this will be the price, and Snowflake will take care of the whole process or have access to a copy. Yes, there's a lot of work here, not only in bringing more partners to the marketplace, but making it easy for these partners to monetize it. I don't know if you have a comment, John.
No, I think that's perfect. That's
Yes.
perfect.
Thanks.
That does save time on integration, because normally I have to look for the feed, negotiate, buy. Now it's already there on the table. You just see what you need. And it's important for data science because you need different inputs, like weather, whatever, like so some changes. So you just pick it. I like that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Another,
Please.
Oh, sorry. Another use case for the data marketplace was around, I was talking to a company around their marketing team. And now we're moving into like this cookieless type of world, and trying to track people, right, is going to get that much more difficult. So there's teams, or there's companies out there that are trying to identify, what people are doing on the web, and then using this data clean room type of concept, being able to merge your data with other people's data to try and find commonalities between them, without really exposing each other's side, right? There's a secure join that's happening across the two. So the data marketplace is actually providing a great way to use public data sets. You also have what we call the data exchange, which is a private place. So like Disney, for example, has a private data exchange between ESPN Plus, for example, or ESPN Plus, Disney Plus, and Hulu. They can't see each other's data for various reasons, but they use a data clean room to be able to do these secure joins to identify common matches where they can cross-sell and upsell to each other. So there's, you take out the friction of getting access to this data, and now you have all petabytes of data about your customers. And now we're making it very easy for you to bring these two worlds together, but keeping governance at the forefront, allow you to only expose the information that you need and not really expose an individual. Hopefully I explained that correctly.
Yes,
But
I don't know if it's correct, but
if it makes sense. If it makes sense.
I think I got what you mean. So for example, the part that you would see would be maybe the aggregate intersection of these two data sets, because at the row level, I don't have the permissions to see what party B has for something we match on. Is that the kind of thing? So you would see the aggregates?
Yes, exactly. So the underlying, you'll set up your different, you can't go down to an individual view, and you'll be able to see the overlaps, if you will, in aggregate of what you should be, targeting or marketing to, or putting an email list together for, that you think is going to be best for your advertiser, or what it might be.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, that's good.
That's awesome.
I have another question, Felipe, about the custom functions you were talking about, the UDFs. The example you gave appeared to be a function that would operate on one row of data. Can you write custom functions that are aggregates and would operate on a collection, sort of writing your own statistical kind of function?
Yes. Let me give you an example, because I love that question, because I have the answer. So I'm glad that and I'm going to give you this example with a SQL puzzle that was shared by Claire from the DBT team. Snowflake and DBT, they work really well together. I'm looking forward to a session this week between our Snowflake lead product manager, Christian Kleinerman. He's wonderful. And he's going to be interviewed by the DBT CEO this week. So I want to see what happens there. But let me share this example that Claire was asking for. They wanted to build a decay function. This is a statistical problem in SQL. So basically, they didn't know how to do this, and TJ helped with a window function. It wasn't TJ, but TJ optimized it for Snowflake, and the window function is cool. Basically, where is the formula? We need to run this formula, but it's not easy with SQL. The answer was here with a, not with a self-jump, but with a window function. But instead, I wrote a JavaScript table UDF. So this is a sliding average. This would be the code in Python. And here with JavaScript UDF, I'm just saving the whole history of what this UDF has seen. And whenever I need to calculate the decay, I can running the UDF, running it here. So every time this function is called for every row, I'm adding a new point to the history, and I'm writing the new result. And just to process this is my A is my input, this is my output. I'm looking at these 10 million rows, and I'm doing this. I'm going over the whole table. This table function that looks at the decay. It gets each point this week. It partitions it by the different account, orders it by week, and it runs. So yes, I am able to run. Uh, 2 weeks ago, I answered on Stack Overflow a similar question where they wanted running median for 30 days, which was not easy to write with SQL if because the window function didn't know if there were days that were being skipped. I basically wrote a function like this. Let me see if I can find it.
So in essence, the user-defined function kind of has its own state that is persistent for the life of the invocation?
Exactly.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I like that.
Yes. So this was my median. And again, I'm asking here for a running median for 30 days. And my JavaScript was super basic. Store the new value in this state. Of course, this is my that's my state of this function. Discard anything that's older than 30 days from that array and get the median of that 30 days running array. And because JavaScript is silly, I had to create my own median function. And I also handling dates in JavaScript is hard too, so I had to bring in my own date math to count 30 days. But if skipping this is all the logic that I had to do, right, to run a 30-day median array. And as you say, it's wonderful that I can keep the state within it. Yes, excellent question. And I love being able to answer it, this specifically. Oh, and just to add to this, as I was telling you a year ago, I was beginning on the Snowflake world. If we look at the top users for the stack, for the Snowflake Stack Overflow ranking, I'm number 2 of all time now. So
Awesome.
yes, it's been a fun adventure, and it's been fun to get to meet all these people. Some of them are Snowflake employees, some of them are Snowflake fans and users, and I love sharing with both of them. It's a real fun place to be part of.
We're lucky to have you.
You got a bit of a margin behind Lucas to catch up there still.
Oh no, Lucas is amazing. With BigQuery, we have a similar super user. I'm fine with Lucas being first. I don't need to be first. I just love sharing with other people. I just happen to be number 2, but this is just a fun community to be part.
That's awesome. So maybe since both John and Felipe are here, like when company buys Snowflake, so then we listen to Felipe and be good at it. But like, how about there are consultants here in the group? How about companies that are making decision, adopting a cloud, which data warehouse? Like, what are the biggest objections you get, and the reason why somebody should choose Snowflake, John? Like you see that in the field. You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute there. Yeah, it's constant that we're seeing it. When one of the things is simplification of the architecture, right? And when you look at Snowflake, you can peel back the onion and there's components in it, but it is. I think Felipe mentioned at the beginning. It just works, right? The architecture has been simplified, and everything that we do is not about bolting on components to make something work. We're building it in the architecture to make sure it performs ultimately, to make sure that we take out the administration tasks from your DBAs, your administrators, to keep the system up and running. Like there is no such thing as a as an upgrade. It does it in the background, right? You don't have to worry about it as an administrator. It just seamlessly happens in the background, and it's an amazing thing. So you can start taking some of that administration effort out and repurpose it, right? Your DBA is an expensive type of resource, and now they can actually focus on managing the data itself. Another area that we see is data scattered all around, right? You've got structured information, you've got semi-structured information, you've got unstructured information, and they're all siloed. And what Snowflake is allowing you to do is to bring those all under management, under one roof. Call it a data warehouse, call it a data lake, call it a lake house, call it, it is your data, it's your global data store of information. It doesn't matter what kind of structure it is. Snowflake can manage it, govern it, secure it, and process it. So when you bring that all underneath one umbrella, I think it's it's been a pretty compelling message. And further, some of the differentiators that we're seeing is, Felipe mentioned SnowGrid. So Snowflake can take you can start in an AWS region, for example. We'll call it AWS Canada, and you can use Azure Central or Azure Canada as your secondary cloud if you wanted to, right? And you can think about a larger enterprise environment. It's not only for business continuity purposes. If you've acquired a company and that skill set might be in the Azure cloud, for example, or Google Cloud, right? You now have the ability to take all of your data and seamlessly and easily replicate it over to the cloud of choice, and then have those developers, for example, go at the Snowflake data or make use of Azure services or GCP services or AWS services that they're comfortable with. So now you don't have to reskill your teams either, because they're familiar with those cloud environments. So not only do you get business continuity out of it, but you can also adapt to the environments that your skilled workers are in as well to make best use out of the data itself. So there's a few things there.
Awesome. Thank you for the answer. And if I choose the size choosing, like shirts choosing, can I change my mind, or I'm locked into small and I grow? How does it work, up and down scaling? Is it
Seamlessly.
okay?
Yes, yeah. Most of the time I'm on a small warehouse because it's really, really fast. I would use an extra small otherwise, but Snowflake is pay for it. But I only jump to large or extra large when I'm going to run a big process. Like, hey, I'm going to load tables. I'm going to run analyze a million Reddit comments detecting the language. Then I jump to large, but it's seamless. Your scripts can say this, like, if you have a long process, you can start with use small, then the SQL query, then use the warehouse large, then run this complicated query, then jump back to the small warehouse. It's really, really easy to script it. The VMs that you get to run this come up immediately almost, because Snowflake is managing the VMs and it has a pool of hot VMs ready for all customers. So it's super seamless, easy to script for usage, and because you can picture the VMs on the backend, it's really easy to predict how long things will take. Like, it's not if you don't want contention, don't have people reusing the warehouses. If you don't mind contention and you want to keep the cost up to certain price, send your 100 analysts, give them access to all the small warehouse for the 100 of them. Then your cost is super contained. It might be slower at certain times, but it's so easy to manage these things. And for me, that's a big difference with my previous favorite product, where it was hard for and when I talk to customers, it was hard to manage resources and how to divide them and how to make query time predictable. In Snowflake, that's all very seamless on how it works.
So look, sounds like you are moving to another topic, comparing Snowflake to other products. So I like that. But when you start talking about it at the very beginning, you mentioned about separation of compute and storage, and to my understanding, only BigQuery and Snowflake do that, but other people didn't appreciate the importance of that. Can you run that again for the audience and then start comparing to other products you're familiar with and what to expect and why to go into journey of migration?
Okay, let me talk about BigQuery and Snowflake. Hopefully, I don't run into trouble. But yes, I happen to be a big expert on both. I'm a little biased, but I made my choice of joining Snowflake because when I was choosing Snowflake as an employer, I was not only looking for, oh, I want some, I want to be happy at this company. I got an amazing management team, but also I asked my favorite BigQuery customers that were my friends that had used Snowflake if they liked it, and they liked it. So they approved, like they were like, yes, you, it's a product that we love. Uh, Same thing you can see in our financial reports now every quarter. We measure very closely how much our customers love Snowflake. Customer satisfaction is a number very dear to us. Um, we have high customer satisfaction every quarter, and that's really, really important for me and for us. Like that's what we drive for. Now, the question was, how would I compare both BigQuery and Snowflake? I think they were the first to both products to show this the power of separation of compute and storage, but they came from different places. BigQuery came from internally. We have this thing that we do internally at Google, and we're going to add this API so other people can use it. Snowflake instead started from scratch. There was no product. There were only the founders, the first employees, the vision, and the vision was let's build on cloud compute. Let's build it on cloud storage. If you had EC2 and what's the Amazon storage? Well, S3 and EC2. What's the smartest thing that you could build on it? And the founders really nailed that vision of what users wanted. And it scales seamlessly. It has access to all this power. Um, you might see those two blocks. The third dimension there is the what we call the cloud services layer that has all the Snowflake smarts to make everything run seamlessly. And um, between both products, uh, there's something that I like about BigQuery. Let me say it, which is BigQuery, when I start working with it, it doesn't ask me about what warehouse I'm going to use or what role I'm going to use. And it's like, oh, super easy. And Snowflake is asking me those questions. But it turns out when you're using these products inside a company, inside enterprise, when you have multiple users, multiple workloads, um, um, permissions to manage, Snowflake makes this so easy to answer those questions that people were asking me about. Uh, how do I manage all my users? How do I manage all my secure views? How do I manage their resources? How do I divide their resources between workloads, users, time? Snowflake makes it really easy for me to answer those questions. And yeah, I don't want to compare it directly, but you might already know how difficult it's if it's not an integral part of the product, but it's more like bolted on as the product is evolved. No, in Snowflake, the role-based security, the workload management with virtual warehouses makes it really easy to decide who are your users, what permissions you give to them, it makes it really easy to test the permissions that different roles have, and it makes it really easy to give different predictable amounts of power to different workloads. And of course, I also love features like that I showed you today, like my ability to work with semi-structured data, my ability to have external functions, my ability to have Java UDFs, my ability to have recursive queries to go deeper into. So those are some big differences for me at the user level and also at the enterprise level.
Thank you for sharing. So now you mentioned like that there are other data warehouses as well. So probably John has seen more. If I'm in Amazon, I'm already using Redshift. Why would I go with Snowflake? Like can you compare that one? And Azure is very interesting. Like I have lots of friends who are SQL developers. They just believe that suddenly they are Synopsys guys just because they host their instance in Azure cloud. So how would you explain to them that they benefit from Snowflake more?
So, not calling out specifically competitors. So just at a higher level, I do think there's like an architectural difference. So if you look at any one of our competitors that you just mentioned, there's multiple components that come together that you need to manage the connection strings between the storage layer, for example, if you're dealing with semi-structured data, and the data warehouse itself. There's security implications to that as well. So there's more complexity that I think comes along with some of those, I would say, on-prem based systems that have been ported to the cloud versus Snowflake being invented for the cloud. So our genesis was to, how can we take advantage of all things cloud, right? From unlimited storage to the unlimited horsepower and compute that comes along with that separation of compute and storage, to get over concurrency and accessing of data, really quickly. It was a big problem that we had to solve and to overcome. And when you come from an on-prem world and you put it into the cloud, there's a lot of those legacy issues that still exist that had to be figured out in some form, fashion, or way. So when we think about a practical experience, when you go into, let's say you deploy Snowflake or one of the competitors that you mentioned, Daniel, what Felipe mentioned around scaling up a warehouse and scaling down a warehouse in your SQL code, it truly happens instantaneously in Snowflake. So the economics around Snowflake become really, really attractive because I can turn on a warehouse and I can turn it off, and we build by the second. With some of the other competitors out there, they're getting better at it, don't get me wrong, but there's a 4 or 5 minute lag that happens in this type of environment. So in order to service a workforce out there to get access to the data analytics, they might be billing by the second or the minute, but a 4 or 5 minute latency to spin up a server or turn down a server means you're running a server all day long, right? And Snowflake, there's true, instantaneous, turn it off, turn it on, scale it up, scale it out, turn it back off. And this, until you actually try it, it was one of the first things. Like when I came into Snowflake and I started fooling around with it, I was like, no way, it happened that quickly. Like until you actually experience it, right? It's one of those things.
That sounds like it's really cool for non-production environments too. So your staging environment, if you're doing something through a CI/CD pipeline, you get to your integration tests, you're finished, you just want to turn it off, right? Like that's fantastic that you can do that right in your code.
And we should add, it turns off automatically. You don't have to remember to turn off things.
Okay.
If a warehouse sees no activity, boom. Like, yes,
Even better.
It stays up in a hot pool that Snowflake manages, but you are not paying for it. A lot of cloud services live on I was going to say a Corey Quinn joke about cloud services love when you don't turn them off because you keep paying for them. No, Snowflake auto turns off all the resources by default.
going to the development environment as well. So another thing that I see my customers taking a lot of advantage of from creating dev environments. You're not actually, let's say you got a petabyte of data inside of Snowflake. You're not copying a petabyte of data for your development environment. They're virtual pointers that are happening. It's a metadata operation. So Felipe mentioned this cloud services layer, right? So we can provision, if you will, a slice inside of Snowflake called the dev database in a couple of seconds, and it's a petabyte of data that you have immediate access to. Or if you think about your data science teams, right? When they're running, you're going through your data science training, modeling, you got to slice and dice your data as you need. Well, in that workflow there, Snowflake contributes by allowing you to do what we call a zero copy clone of your production data, put it in this safe zone, sandbox area, allow your data science team to have really full access to that full production data without interfering or you worrying about dropping a table in production or what have you. It's totally separate, but it's a metadata operation. So you're not being billed again for storage on that.
And can you have multiple ones of those too? Like if I wanted to, for developer A, B, and C to each have a zero copy clone, no problem?
Yes.
Yeah. Good.
Yes. Each developer starts with their own clone and it works.
Nice.
So some storyline I'd love to add here is, in many ways, Snowflake should not exist. Like, how did Snowflake happen when all these giants already had offerings? They already were there. But Snowflake not only exists, um, I would call Snowflake the market leader. And why I call it the market leader? Because I keep looking around and everyone else is comparing themselves to Snowflake. And that makes such a, like, if you want to find who the market leader is, just follow all the arrows that are being shot. And that makes me like, that's for me the proof that Snowflake not only exists, is showing the vision of what others should build.
See, I only followed two of you. Like when John switched many years ago from open text to Snowflake, I was, this must be a good company, John Smart. And then when we left Google a year and a half ago, I said, if Felipe is doing that too, I should learn it. It will happen. Lynn's course will help. Thank you for the free training tonight.
But yes, it's if you want to hear like a lot of principles, listening to interviews to our founders, like Benoit did a great interview on Friday with theCUBE on Thursday. Yeah, I tweeted it as reInvent, but also listening to podcasts with our CFO, or listening podcasts with our chief pricing officer, listening to podcasts with our chief marketing officer. They are all so sharp and understand so well what the product is and what the users want and how they drive the decisions, like from the chief financial FO point of view, how they drive all of the decisions around the product. It's really inspiring to see everything works in such what's the word, like it's a great leadership team that understands the product, that understands the users, and have a vision of what they want.
On the Snowflake blog, there's an executive thought leadership component to it, and so Mike Scarpelli, our CFO, he's had some really great ways of how we use Snowflake internally that he talks about, and how it helps us run our own business. And when we had a great quarter that we passed by, which was phenomenal. But how do we get all of the analysis in order to make those appropriate statements and judgments, and how does the financials team look into Snowflake, see how we're doing? How does the product team make decisions on what customers are saying? How does the sales team make best effort guesses on what customers we should target? We eat our own dog food, so it's we call it Snowflake on Snowflake. It's quite cool.
William has a
it's
good question.
inspiring.
William has
Please.
a good question. Databricks. We touched other data warehouses, but I missed Databricks. So.
Yes, that's my question. So I'm actually using Databricks day in, day out right now on daily basis on the Azure cloud, and we're using Data Factory to orchestrate these data pipelines. But Snowflake is pretty much similar. I would say similar online like on cloud. I would say on cloud analytics services compared to Databricks. So what's the most distinctive feature in between these two? I know Databricks underneath the engine is Spark, right? Spark framework engine. But for Snowflake, it's kind of like I haven't used it in the real project. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's why I'm jumping this call to learn something about it. But if someone can tell me,
I don't know if.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know if John has an answer or someone else, but I would avoid answering that question because I'm not a Databricks expert. I only dare answer about comparing with BigQuery because I happen to be an expert in both, at least Stack Overflow recognized expert. But yeah, we have to be very careful on direct comparisons. I don't know if John has a.
No, I think I do have to play it safe. We have our opinions. I'm absolutely no expert in Databricks for sure. You know, the way that I do look at it and think about it is sort of the ethos of each company and where they were born from. Right? We started off tackling a big problem around managing petabytes of data and allowing as many users access to that data as possible. And that's our ethos, right? Around governance, security, being able to provide this data in a collaborative way to a diverse set of consumption applications. Databricks, from the way that I understand it, they really do well in the ETL and data science side of things. So I think there are complementary ways that the two systems can work together. It depends on how you deploy Databricks in your environment and the way that you make use out of it. But as maybe from the ethos and the way that we've grown up, the way that Databricks is grown up, and we've all tried to do our best in those spaces there.
So I'm going to just jump in here a little.
Lynn, yes.
So when Databricks first started, to me it was clearly data science. So Spark, and it was Jupyter Notebooks, and data science at scale. Where I think it starts getting a little bit more interesting is with Delta Lake, which is their answer to a data lake. So you have a little bit more overlap because my understanding of Snowflake was, like you said, originally it was kind of solving a warehousing problem, but then it was sort of an all access data. So sort of like data lake before people knew what a data lake was. Kind of still, it sort of abstracts above. So it's, using the engines for the purposes for which they're built. To me, my customers get great value from Databricks for these machine learning, this optimized Spark scenarios. And I have a lot of them. I work in bioinformatics, and most pipelines include some component of that. But I have actually seen architectures that combine Snowflake and Databricks because of the different capabilities. So it really is going to be dependent on the scale and the complexity of and the types of computation that you have. So I don't know if that's helpful. It was William that asked the question, but you can also ping me offline because I have courses on Databricks. I have courses on everything, right? And I have done Databricks in production for many, many years as well. So I don't know if that's helpful, but thought I'd jump in.
We have lots of customers that we visit, and it's a combined environment, right? I think Lynn has nailed it, right? Snowflake is in there for its core purpose, and Databricks is in there for it, for data science, for example, or a data pipeline. I do see that as well. So there is a mixed mode environment. I don't think it has to be all or nothing.
But yes, I would say that It depends a lot on what you want, what's your use case. Our sales team, led by John in Toronto and the region, they would love to work with you on running, analyzing what you want, what you are doing, what could be better on Snowflake. And again, as Lynn says, some customers use one, some customers use others. There might be many benefits of moving some workloads from one to the other. And I would love to just call out different workloads as they happen. Um, on Reddit r Snowflake, I've been adding stories when companies decide to switch. Um, and you can see their reasons why they switch, how much money they're saving, how much faster their processes are. But there is no universal answer for everyone. It all depends on what you're doing, what your workloads are, and also how each of these products are evolving. Um, the unstructured data support on Snowflake, it's new, and it's going to solve so many new use cases. And we will be telling those stories as we create those examples, as we bring those customer stories. But what I love about Snowflake is how it's driven, as John said, by the vision of our founders, and how this vision makes it really easy to run for our users. It's like we are working with customers to develop these features in a way that is useful to you, to them.
Okay, sounds
Well,
great. Thanks. Yeah.
hopefully that, we skate around it maybe a little bit, but hopefully that helps. The competition, it gets a little hairy sometimes. We want to be respectful as well, because we're all out there.
So we don't have a hard stop at 8 o'clock, so you can keep going. I will paste the names from the chat into the wheels of names, and then whoever forgot to put the name, you can paste it here, and I'll add it to the wheels. So keep going with the question.
Can you give us any sort of sense of what the starting pricing is? Like, I understand it's kind of based on credits, but you've got all those small, medium, large, you can start and stop them. But I mean, what is that actually? Like, let's say I'm running a medium constantly for an hour. Is that 0.5 of a credit? Is that 6 credits? Like, what does it come out to for somebody who's tinkering around on it?
John.
Yeah. So it is a per hour credit that we have, and the I guess it all depends on sort of the region that you're in, but it's a per hour credit that you're going to get. There's also different versions of it. So depending on what you're looking to do. So there's what we call standard edition, would be a little bit cheaper on the credit per hour. Enterprise edition, a little bit more expensive, and then business critical is if you need such things as HIPAA compliance, for example, try so you could secure customer keys. So depending on where you're at, so there's different versions of it, and in each version, there's a base credit price that you have. So I know I'm sort of skirting around it, and we'd have to work with your team, I think, in order to figure out what that per credit amount is.
Now, the free trial makes it very easy to just test Snowflake. You don't need a credit card. Just go there with your email address. You will get $400 in credits, and you can see that you can do a lot with not many credits. Of course, then as you are adding teams, workloads, you're spending more. But if it solves your problems and it makes your life easier, that's why our customers love Snowflake. And Daniel is presenting.
No, I'm sharing the draw. It's kind of like, is anybody's name missing here that wants to be here?
Oh,
Lynn is gone, but like we can find her, so she's eligible. John, you never want to participate. Add your name.
Who, me? Oh,
Yeah,
I
why
don't.
not?
I don't need to win. You're not on there, Daniel.
No, it's okay. Like it's Manning gives it to us. So it's any of the Manning products. So whoever wins this, and if he's within the group plus Lynn, she's exception, will be able to win any of the Manning products. The way it works, you're going to choose it and place it in your kind of shopping basket, and then the people from Manning will move it to your dashboard as if you purchased it. So use that account. So are you ready? Can we start the spin? Good luck.
Do we have music for this?
Yeah. Where's the drum roll?
Shati, are you here?
Sati!
Oh, my friend from C2C. Are you here with us? So
Yeah, I can see they're still there.
yeah, okay. So that's good. Congrats on it, and I'll.
Yeah.
Perfect. So just put your email just in case, so I don't have to fish through the logs. And
We lost. I lost. I didn't hear half of what you said there, Daniel.
So what I said, who you can take any of, not you now, no, Shati, can take any of the Manning.com products, whether it's a book or video course or live training. And then I just need his email address in the chat so I can coordinate with him and Manning folks for this. So this is my part. I'm stopping presenting. I don't have a hard stop, but it's we advertised until 8 p.m. So it's up to you if you have questions for Felipe and John. I really appreciate your visit.
If not, I will be very happy to fly to Toronto and talk with everyone once it's safe to do so.
Yeah, Omicron not allowed.
Yes, it might take some time, but I really want to go back to Toronto and
definitely.
Make more
So when we come back in person, tell us when you're coming. We will organize the meetup around you live 3D. I don't know how food will work, but I look forward to hugging you, not just virtually talking to you. And then you did ask me before we started the meetup about Chilean wines. I stopped drinking. I forgot the name. So this was my prize performance winner. Like
Marquez.
now, yeah. So what other wines from Chile can you recommend?
Oh, if I have to recommend wine, you should try more than the specific wine. I'll give you the specific grape, Carmener. That's a grape that only grows in Chile because it was saved, because it disappeared from France. It was saved in the Chilean grounds, and you can really impress people with a good Carmener.
Thank you. Good to know. Anybody else? Amaha, you're really quiet. Like I miss seeing you in person, and you're here with us.
Hey,
Amaha was a regular when we were live before COVID.
okay. How are you guys? I know I kind of, I know I disappeared for the last few months, but I'm still here.
Any questions about Snowflake? Anything? Are you still with the Bay? Okay. So we have an offer here from. Oh yeah, Alphonse, go ahead.
Just a quick welcome if any of you want to join C2C Global, Google Cloud Customer Community. We can discuss a lot of cloud projects there. I know Felipe knows a lot of that. and obviously we can discuss how to run Snowflake on GCP.
Yes. That's cool. Like we should be open-minded. So this is C2C independent community. It's not related to Google.
It's independent.
Yeah.
I just don't want you get a call from Google because we
get percentage for
networking. It's independent, but they have my number. You know, I don't want to say, why are you promoting Snowflake on Amazon?
By the way, I have a blog post coming. I have the draft ready to publish of using Google PubSub with Snowflake just to get real-time data into micro batches. I'm pretty proud of it. I just didn't have it ready for today, but that will be a cool one for GCP customers to discuss.
Sure,
Wow.
absolutely. I'm sure that Daniel wants you to talk about that here in Serverless Toronto and also in C2C Global. You're invited there if you want, and you can publish a reference to your blog when you publish that article, and you can do it by yourself, or I can do it for you if you want. You know, I can shout out to the people in the community that you post about that.
For sure. Yeah, I post everything on Reddit or Snowflake. Now I need to see if I will join a new community. I'm learning how to join Slacks now. I never used Slack before joining Snowflake, but now I use the same tools that the rest of the world does. So that's pretty cool. But on Reddit, you will find I will publish the story for sure. And if I don't publish it in the customer
C2C
community,
Global. Yep.
yes, we still have Reddit to you can find it there and bring it to the other community.
Yeah, thank you
This is
very much.
awesome. That's a generous invite, Alfonso.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
Anybody else? Like I can hang after meetups. We finished officially, hanging outside and chatting. So.
Yes, I will need to leave. I would love to go for drinks now, but if anyone has a closing comment,
okay, take this bottle.
But yeah, no, it's really fun. For me, Snowflake is really fun. Like I have so many more live examples to show. We always have to choose. But thanks a lot. This has been a lot of fun.
Do we have any Snowflake partners here, or it's only John as to support with sales? Put your email address maybe for inquiries, John, as well, because I will put everything from the chat in the YouTube. So I think for developer questions, they go to Reddit, to your Medium post, to you, Felipe, and for any playground or analyzing if Snowflake will work for their corporate cultures. And I did work and did buy from John before, and I'm not regretting it. And we stayed friends after for years. Yes. So that's a good testimony for salesmen. So he will only sell you if you need it.
That's the worst thing you can do is sell someone on something that they don't need, right? It's there's a demand. If you have a pain, we'll try and fix it.
Perfect. So I'm okay. I'm grateful. Thank you. Any last closing thoughts, John?
No, thank you, Felipe, for coming in and speaking. That was amazing, and thank you, Daniel, for hosting us. This is great. And everyone else for sticking around as well. I'm glad that we were engaged. That's awesome. Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you. Happy New Year. All the best. Stay safe, and hope to see you in person next year.
See you
guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much, guys. Good night.
Dankeschön.